everyone. I'm Barry Steigers, the morning host on K-High Radio, and also your host here on the Auburn News 20. The Auburn Fire Department made a quick response this week to a possible disaster in downtown Auburn. There was a fire on Hoffman Lane and Landis Circle, right behind the Salvation Army retail store. Could have been very serious. The winds were up, but they made quick work of the fire. Now on to the story. The fire chief said that there was a problem with that lot, that they have cited that lot and the owner because they hadn't cleared the brush. And they were going to city council the very night the fire was to get permission from city council to go ahead and clear all that brush for the owner. Firemen made quick work of this fire at the Hoffman Lane and Landis Circle area in downtown Auburn, dangerously close to the buildings, stores, and the Elmwood Motel. The fire department had warned the owner of the property and was going before the city council the night of the fire to gain permission to take charge of eliminating the fuel at city expense, which would then be charged back to the field owner. A few days later, the field had been mowed clean. However, another fire broke out here in just a few days later. That was also quickly extinguished by the Auburn Fire. No buildings were damaged. No one was hurt. Barry Steigers on location with Auburn News Channel 20. For our featured interview this week, we went to the offices of Melanie Barton, who was the chief administrator of the Placer County Museums. She retired at the end of last month and now starts a new life. We sat down with her in her office and had a grand chat with her, and here's the News 20 report. I'm sitting with Melanie Barton, who's the Placer County Administrator for the Museums Division, and Melanie is about to retire. In fact, this is her last week sitting here in her office. And Melanie, I thought it'd be kind of fun for our listeners to just chat with you and find out about who is Melanie, how you got here, and some of the stories and things you can tell because you've been here long enough. I'm sure you've seen some real change. So let's start with Melanie, the teenager. I did hear from you that you did graduate after 1 year at Placer High School, but you never lived here, but you've come back here. So why don't you tell me how that whole story worked?
All right. Well, I grew up in the Chico area and was a country girl, rode horses from a very early age and showed horses. And my mom at one point decided that she needed to get out of town, and so she took a job in Auburn for the DeWitt Mental Institution, and she was the liaison between the hospital and the public. Unfortunately for me, that was my senior year of high school, but I went gladly because my mom needed my support. And I actually had a very good experience here and graduated in class of 64 and then moved away, never to return as far as I knew. But I did always enjoy the foothills. So I started my college career and first went to UC Davis majoring in anthropology, which is still one of my big loves. And then I transferred to Chico, and then I went to the University of Uppsala in Sweden for a year, which is where I met my future husband. And then I came back to Chico and graduated. And shortly after that, we married and went into the Peace Corps in Nepal for 2 years. And then, I don't know, it goes on and on and on. I'm the mother of 3 wonderful sons, and who are now in their mid to late 30s. And we spent a lot of that time moving around. My husband was in marketing, and we lived in Hong Kong for a couple of years, and then we were a couple different places in Oregon and California, and then ended up in Bakersfield for 17 years, which is where our kids graduated from high school. And my whole life I volunteered a lot. When we had children, I was fortunate that we made the decision that I would stay home and be a full-time mom, and I've never regretted that one day. But it also gave me the opportunity to be, I guess, super volunteer in a way. One of my favorite projects was in Southern California, where I worked for a California Living Museum and did K through 12 curriculum development. It was a museum of plants and animals native to California. So I guess that in a way is the closest to some of the things I've done later in my life in museums, only at that point I was focusing on nature, not on cultural history. And I did that for quite a few years and really enjoyed it, and developed a lot through a volunteer, a lot of my skills on program management, working with communities and getting them to be involved in the educational programs and things like that. All of those skills are ones that I brought to the current job that I have.
Now, how long have you been here as the chief administrator of these museums?
I started here not as the museum administrator, but as a program manager in June 2002. And then after, I forget if it was a year and a half, I was promoted when the past director retired. I became the director. I was director at that time. It's since then become administrator for the county.
What changes have you seen since you took this job? Has there been a growth in our museums, or and the funding, I'm sure, is important to keep them funded, I assume, by the government, by the county governments. So have you seen them grow over the time you've been here?
Well, I've seen lots of things change in the 11 years I've been here. I'd like, first off, to make sure that everyone's aware of the fact that the 6 museums that I manage are funded by Placer County and the Board of Supervisors. And I think it's very, very unique in this day and age to have any jurisdiction fund museums. Most counties, states, federal government have pulled back from doing that. So the majority of the museums are run by support groups of one kind or another, and they have all kinds of fundraising activities in order to provide for the maintenance and everything for the museum. So Placer County residents and the people who visit here are really, really fortunate to have these museums and the Archives and Research Center that is funded by the county. And the county has always been supportive of what we do in museums, and by supportive not only in the concept and the idea, because they're really proud of the history of the area, but they have been generous in funding us for positions and all the things that we need in order to have a successful museum system.
Now, you say there's 6. Name them for me. Where are they? I know they're obviously all in Placer County, but there are some here in the city of Auburn, right?
Right. Well, our hub is actually in Auburn, because that's where the government center has been. The historic courthouse in Auburn is called the Placer County Museum, and the museum occupies the lower floor of that museum and is primarily dedicated to an overview of the county history. And then we have the Bernhard Museum Complex, which is about a half a mile from here, and that is one of the oldest, we think the oldest wooden structure in the county, and it was built in 1851 as a traveler's rest for the miners when they came to the area. It was like a hotel. It then was bought by the Bernhards, who were from Germany, and they were farmers, and they owned quite a number of acres in the area where the Bernhard is now, and they farmed all of your fruit crops and had quite an extensive vineyard also. And that property consists of a wine processing building and a vineyard that they built, and they're wonderful buildings. I'm not sure there's anything quite like it anywhere else in California, actually. And then we have another museum, actually it's the first museum in the system, that's in the Gold Country Fairgrounds, and it's currently called the Gold Country Museum, and it focuses on the mining history of the county. But originally that was the only museum, and that goes way, way back to the 50s. And then we have 3 other museums in the system. We have the Griffith Quarry, Little Quarry House in Penryn. There's the Forest Hill Divide Museum, which is a wonderful local history museum, and then the Golden Drift Museum in Dutch Flat, which focuses on the mining, a lot of hydraulic mining exhibits, the railroad and forestry from that area. So those are the 6 museums.
I was going to call you a curator because I didn't know better. As I looked up your website, you're really an administrator. What is the difference between that?
Well, in our system, there are many kinds of curators, and it's kind of a generic term. But we have, for example, a curator of education, collections, and archives. Those people are dedicated to those particular fields, which means frequently they'll have a master's degree. They definitely have a degree in history or some related field, but then they have volunteered or worked as interns in specialized fields like learning how to process all the objects that we receive as donations and how to preserve and care for those. And then for the archives, it's our paper products, photographs, books, etc. And for education, the curator of education is a person who's really intimately involved in developing and running our educational programs. I have more experience in the educational aspect of it and program development than the other 2 types of curators, but the museum administrator really doesn't need to have experience as a curator at all in order to be successful in what they're doing. I see the position as someone who's really involved with the community, knows how to promote, market what museums has to offer, can have a vision for the future of museums, has very clear goals of what they want to accomplish. Is someone who can take a mission statement and make that work for them so that everything moves forward in museums. I think the museum administrator definitely is a key person for working with the other historical organizations in the county, and a part of our mission statement is to do that and to promote not just our 6 county museums, but to promote local history in all the museums in the area.
Now, don't you once a year have a museum tour where people can actually go out and visit all of these over a weekend?
Yeah.
That's a very nice way to get exposure for the museums. Has that been successful for you?
It has been extremely successful. This will be our 6th year, and it's called the Heritage Trail, and this year it will be on August 10th and 11th. 19 museums are participating throughout the county, and the whole concept of the event is to provide visitors to the museums the opportunity to learn about local history. And when you go from museum to museum, you can really see how that local history has impacted the town itself. And I think you get a really good understanding of the county if you go to multiple museums. That's the idea. And every participating museum is open from 10 until 4 on those 2 days. It's free, and they're asked to provide extra kinds of activities and programming on those 2 days. So it's a wonderful opportunity. A lot of people have taken advantage of this. This was kind of one of my brainstorm ideas 5 years ago, or actually 7 years ago, I guess. And one of the things I wanted to do is to be able to create an event that was free and that could involve all the museums in Placer County, all the history museums in Placer County. So it was looking outside of just what we manage as a county division, but including everyone. And it's been really helpful for a lot of these smaller museums, especially like in Auburn, for example. We've got the Medical Museum and the Joss House and the Benton Multi-School Room. Those museums are not open very often, and so it's a really good opportunity for people to see these museums and to help these smaller groups promote themselves.
So you mentioned there are 6 under the county. That means there's 13 that are not under the county.
Correct.
Now, how are they funded and who runs those?
Several of them are funded by local historical societies. The MIDU has funding from the city of Roseville. Some have grants, minimal. They're different. Some of them have foundations that have done helped with fundraising and are like a board for them.
So they're really independent. except this once a year where you
Yeah.
bring everybody together.
Right.
I think that's terrific. This is your last week. Any thoughts?
Lots of thoughts. I really feel like I've accomplished a lot, and it's thanks to a lot of wonderful people in the area who really share my vision of what museums and what local history can mean to a community. And it's been a lot of fun. I mean, people are always at the center of it for me, and history is really about people. It's not so much about places. You can have the places, but without the wonderful stories that people tell you and have given and participated in for hundreds of years, it would be pretty boring. So I like to focus on the people, and it certainly has been the most enjoyable part for me in my work. We have over 200 volunteers that we work with in Placer County Museums. Without our volunteer help, we would not be able to have the museums open on a regular basis like ours are. I have a small staff, wonderful people in my staff, but we would not be able to open the museums to the public without all of our volunteer help. So that's been just amazing. I think the welcome that the community has given to someone like me who didn't grow up living here, and most people have just welcomed me aboard, and I've enjoyed that tremendously. And working with the county, we have been able to do some really incredible things. In the time I've been here, I've gone through the renovation of this courthouse as and a consultant advisor to make sure that we maintain the historic appearance of the building. We've done some major renovations at the Bernhard, particularly the old winery. We completely redid the interior of the Griffith Quarry Museum. We've made updates to all of our museums, and generally speaking, we do 2 to 3 new exhibits a year, which is amazing for a team as small as this is. The biggest project I've done, we just completed, and that was the relocation of the archives and research and collections facility to a new, to us, building out at DeWitt that is much more modern and better able to accommodate the collection that we've accumulated over the years. So lots of changes. Our programs have just blossomed. Our Living History program for 3rd grade students is a model for people everywhere. We constantly get that feedback. It's a very, very well-run program. Everything I've done, from exhibits to any programs, they all meet California state standards for the grade that we're targeting. So that really helps the teachers in being able to get their kids to come to the programs. And so everything is really done very, very well. I mean, we've had a difficult time since 2008 with the economy, but we're coming through it great, and I feel really good about where museums is going to go in the future, even without me being at the head of it.
Now, I've interviewed a lot of people who retire, and I wish I could go back in 5 years and say, so how's it going? What's next for Melanie?
I guess that's a good question. At one point you said, it's like you wanted to find out who the real Melanie Barton is, and I guess in some ways I'm wanting to find out the same thing. Of course I know who I am, but retirement is a new concept to me, really, and I'm not sure exactly what direction I'll go in that. As I mentioned earlier, we have 3 sons. None of them live in the area. They're far-flung all over the world. That is one of my motivators for retiring, because I have grandchildren, and when you have a job like I've had, you aren't able to be gone for really longer than a week at a time, so I'm looking forward to traveling. I have a wonderful paint horse that I love to ride in the trails in the area. I'm looking forward to that. Being able to do that more, not just having to fit it in sometime on the weekend. I'm already a volunteer for Canyon Keepers, so I look forward to participating in that, and maybe seeing the trails from not only on the back of a horse, but from walking. I hope to help with their cave canyons and the interpretation of Hopper Cave. As you know, I've been involved with Auburn Rotary for a number of years and extremely involved in the Rotary Youth Exchange programs, and I plan to continue with that. Since I was an exchange student myself, I have a real connect with all those kids in that program. So, I don't know, I'd like to have more time to garden. Who knows? I'm open.
Melanie Barton, ladies and gentlemen, she is the chief administrator for the Placer County Museums, but that's only another couple of days, and then she goes into retirement. Thank you, Melanie. It's been a pleasure to be here with you. Well, the News 20 camera went on the street again this week. Auburn every year has a wonderful feature. The Placer Arts has their yearly art walk. And lots of stores downtown open their doors and provide wall space so that our local artists can show all of their artwork for up to 60 days. The first night of the art walk is when all the folks come to visit and meet those artists. The News 20 camera was there. We sure had fun. I hope you enjoy the feature. With me is Angela Totti. She is the Executive Director of Placer Arts. Angela, nice to have you with me. This is always a great event. The Auburn Walk is famous, and it's just a wonderful evening for everybody to get out and see some of these wonderful artists here. You had a ceremony here a few moments ago. Tell me about that.
Yes, that's right, and it is such a beautiful evening. We're blessed with mild weather on this June date. So we are celebrated at 5:30 the recognition of 6 students who are high school students from the region who have been accepted into the prestigious California State Summer School for the Arts. This is a month-long pre-professional immersion in their field of discipline. So tonight we had 4 students from Placer County, 2 creative writers, 1 dancer, and 1 visual artist. Right? I think it was two visual artists. And then from Calaveras County we had a theater major, we had another creative writer, and we had another visual artist from Sutter County. And these students work very hard. It's a great achievement. About 1,500 to 2,000 applications come from all over the state, and only 500 students are selected. So we were really proud to recognize them tonight, congratulate them and their families.
With me is Jim Holmes, who happens to be supervisor in Placer County for Area 3. Jim, what happened here tonight? It's a nice opening for the Auburn Walk. So you just finished the ceremony. What happened?
Well, we had 6 area students that were accepted to the California Institute of Arts Summer School Program.
Let's do one more break of that, I guess, since I'm coming up for it.
Yeah.
Okay. 1, 2, you know what to do.
And this is part of the art walk, the Auburn Art Walk. And what you're seeing here on wood panel is encaustic work. It's an ancient process created from beeswax and tray resin. It's actually a process older than paper making. The Romans used it first to seal their boats and later to decorate their boats. And about a century later, the Egyptians used it to create funeral portraits. Some of these were found in the Fayum ruins, sort of a testament to its longevity. It's absolutely waterproof. You can buff it to a nice polish because of the damar resin that's in it. And it's a lovely, unusual process. It kind of makes its way in and out of art history.
With me is another local artist, Tracy Owens. Tracy, nice to have you with us. And you have a lot of work here in the northern part of the area, here in the downtown area. Explain a little bit about your background and the kind of art you like.
Oh my gosh, my background. I'm a self-taught artist. I went to a lot of art schools and they took so much time telling us what we can't do. So I just decided to go and do what I can do. And I like bright colors. I love playing with color. I like a little bit of the shock factor. I do a lot of scandalous paintings. I love to take people of the community and put them in scandals. And I get calls saying, can I be in your next scandal? So that's fun. I am in a lot of places around here. 3 current shows going on, so I'm having a lot of fun with that. And teach a lot of classes and spread the scandal, you know. Fun. A lot of fun.
Hello, hi. My name is Nancy Pakala, and I'm an artist in residence here at Placer Arts in the Arts Building on Lincoln Avenue here in Auburn. This is one of my latest works of art. I'm painting elephants these days. I enjoy painting endangered species. I learn a lot about each animal by painting them and studying them and reading about them. And I hope to bring more awareness to their plight. And I have in the background here one of my elephant paintings, the first one that I've ever painted, and that's called The Greeting. And you may have seen it in town. It's been in a few wonderful establishments, including the Auburn Thai Garden restaurant. And if you come and visit me here at Arts, I'd be happy to show you more of my work. And I'd love to have you come in and say hello. Thank you.
We're now back at City Hall, where they're celebrating Auburn's past. All of the artists were here and were judged, and we did have 3 winners. Had a nice crowd, too. People walking, chatting, as they always do at the Auburn Art Walk. And the 3 winners, first, second, and third place, hanging in the prominence of the downtown City Hall. Back at Placer County Arts, here's another piece of art, all made of steel. And we want to thank the vendors who allow the artists to display their work for up to 60 days. I'm Barry Steigers, Auburn News 20.
Let's do one more break of that, I guess, and some tune up for it.
Yeah.
1, 2, you know what to
Now, our weekly neighborhood beat with our own Paula Johnston.
Oops, that would be me. Hi, I'm Paula Johnston. And I usually do the neighborhood beat on Auburn News 20, in which I go out and see what's happening in our neighborhoods. This week I've been a little preoccupied. Let's go outside for a little fresh air and I'll tell you what I've been busy with.
Well, after a long day in the office, it's really nice to be outside in the sunshine. There's a beautiful breeze blowing. It's June the 20th today. No, it's actually June the 21st, so it's summer solstice today. What a perfect day to be outside. And today, on this week's Neighborhood Beat, I'm going to do something a little bit different. For the last week, I have been preoccupied with applying for a grant for a new television show. Ever since I raised my 3 children here in the Gold Country, and I've come to understand what an important and powerful thing nature is to the development of a child or a person, I've decided that I'd really like to start a program about children in the Gold Country. and I'm looking for people now to participate in this project. So if you or anybody you know would be interested in being in a program, a TV program on community television called Gold Country Kids, please don't hesitate to get in contact with me. My phone number is 916-847-8106. My email is traveltimeproductions@gmail.com, or you can contact me through the Auburn Community Television email, which is auburntv@gmail.com. If you'd like to check out our website at Auburn Community Television, look at www.actv20.org. Community television is a very important asset for our neighborhoods because it provides a means by which the community can communicate and share skills, talents, values, ideas, and services, thereby developing the cohesiveness which marks successful communities. It is often said that communication is the key to success, but without a soapbox to stand on, how can our voices be heard? Public access TV is a vital resource and is valued across the United States as a non-commercial forum for any member of the community to share their message. At Auburn Community Television, our motto is, "It's all about you."
Please don't mind me, I won't be staying.
Okay, I'm going to come try painting on your rock.
Once before as a child, and I don't really know just what I came back now to find. Seems to me I need to be in your world for a while. The mountains and the streams, purples, blues and greens, sound of rolling thunder on the wind.
Our next major goal is to produce a TV show about what it's like to be a kid in the Gold Country. Do you know any kids? If so, ask them if they'd like to make a TV show. They do not need to be on camera, they could also learn behind the scenes stuff. This is intended as a fun learning opportunity for all personalities.
Gold Country today, running free, running wild. The wisdom of the ancients, the wonder of a child, running free, nature's way. And I'll find the Gold Country today. Yes, I'll find the Gold Country today.
I'm Barry Steigers. I'm your host here on Auburn News Channel 20 and on the K-High Morning News. See you next time.